Good afternoon, or good evening, or good morning, wherever you are. I don't know where the hell Davey is. He might be in Jamaica. He might be in Australia. He might be in Fiji. He might be off
Good
planet.
day.
Who knows?
Good day. I am in good old Australia. No, I'm not. I'm still in sunny Jamaica. Hence the vest, hence the bright background, because it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, lunchtime.
I'm just having a bad hair day, so I thought I'd put a hat on today.
Looking slick, dressed in the all black, like the Omen.
Thank you, thank you. My wardrobe does consist of a lot of black. That is something I am trying to change.
Well, a wise man once said, always bet on black.
This is true. This is true. This is true. And something I'm going to continue doing in my life.
And look at that. It transitions so nicely as well now, see? Because that wise man who said that then went on to play a Marvel character, aka Blade. And now here we are. Boom. Marvel. Loki. MCU.
Exactly.
Episode 2. Davie LP. No headphones. What's going on?
What is going on? What's going on in episode 2? What's going on with Loki? What's going on with Lady Loki? These are all questions which we're not necessarily going to find the answers to, but we're going to be discussing. So should we just kick straight off into it? Like, great episode for me again. It answered a few questions and asked a lot more questions for me. But yeah, we kick off straight into the show with a scene of Wisconsin. I can't speak properly.
Wisconsin.
Thank you. 1985. There's some kind of, you kind of think we're entering like a medieval time, but it's actually some kind of medieval cosplay festival going on. Yeah, and the Loki variant turns up and does their madness and kidnaps a minute man is what they call the TVA agents. Yeah, I thought that was a nice little start, and most importantly, takes one of their little time reset kind of bomb things. Yeah, once again, takes one of those. Thought that was a good opening, and then we get straight into the credits. Then we get straight into Loki, kind of like sat at his desk at the TVA, talking to Miss Minutes. Now, I don't know about you, Davian, but I loved Miss Minutes kind of not being in computer form and just being outside of the computer, and Loki just arguing with it and just trying to like slam it like it's a fly or annoying insect.
But going into that, which is a great point you brought that up, I was also correct, because didn't I say last week on episode 1 when we watched it, I said I think that it's an actual living being. That
he did indeed.
He was interacting, as in Loki was interacting with it. It wasn't giving like a generic answer, like an automated thing. It was actually answering the questions personally, like as it was being asked to to it. So it kind of was like, this thing may actually be a living entity, which is quite interesting, because what role and how far will that go? Because the fact that Loki, just by that little interaction, he exchanged between them two, I think Loki, I may be wrong, but it looks as though maybe Loki is going to have a little soft spot for that thing, whatever it is, and might be a budding friendship, a duo.
Maybe they seem to be more frenemies for me more than anything at the moment. But you bring up a good point as well, David, because we know the timekeepers created the TVA. So obviously all these beings that exist within the TVA, I mean, we're just assuming they were maybe born through, mummy and daddy getting it on and then producing a baby, but the TVA created these beings. So, the TVA may have created Miss Minutes to be just like that, like an entity that kind of exists as some kind of like propaganda symbol for it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's interesting what you said about the timekeepers that created everything from the TVA, everything within the TVA sphere, because it made an interesting conversation between Loki and Mobius when he was
Yes.
actually saying, do you guys like, what about like free will? Because
Yeah.
it seems
Belief.
as
Yes.
they're all created just to blindly follow and do what the timekeepers say. If the timekeeper says, yes, go and erase that thing, they don't question anything to think, well, why? Or why do we need to do this? Why do we need to do that? What makes this right? They just blindly follow. And I think it's going to make for an interesting series to see what impact Loki will have on them. Because it's quite, if you notice, if you just have this tunnel vision concept or idea of what is right or wrong, where it's just black and white to you, and that's all you've ever known. When you have someone that comes in, an outsider that comes in, first, you don't like the outsider being in if they're not following what you're following, because that's what you think is the only way to go. But then when they start actually put things out there and make you think outside the relatively narrow-minded box that you've been in, it then makes you start to question things. And then what will happen? What will the timekeepers do if the TVA agents start questioning certain things and saying, well, hang on, why is this happening or why is that happening? What will they do? Will he then erase everything in the TVA and create another set of TVA that will just blindly follow yet again? What will happen?
Yeah, 100%. I think this is definitely something I want to get back to when we reach the end of the episode, when we talk about that bit, because I think what you're touching upon, I think has ramifications in regards to how the series is going to progress and actually who is the good guy and who is the bad guy in this program, because I still don't think we've 100% established what those roles are.
Loki said something about that, didn't he? Like,
Loki did say that, no, kind of like the Alistair Black song from when he was wrestling in NXT. He kind of said, no one's really 100% good, no one's really 100% bad in life, which is true.
Yeah.
Which is true. So I think he was kind of alluding to there that, like not everything is as it seems. And, there's a lot of grey we're dealing with in regards to the morality of what's going on.
With the timekeeper. And I think that's real interesting. It's actually deeper than they may think. I think Loki as...
Hello, Elevators. How you doing?
Hey, Elevators. As bad as they want to make Loki out to be, I think Loki's very, very interested in the sense that Loki's able to figure people out, what people's really about. And I think that's why they want to offer him that golden egg of, if you come through for us, you'll get an audience with the timekeepers. Now, Loki's mission won't be to kill the timekeepers when he gets in front of them. I think it's to expose them for what and who they really are, what their real agenda is. I think Loki has the ability where he can tell what someone's real agenda is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Loki's shown that throughout the entire series, where Loki, to a certain extent, has always had a hidden agenda himself. So there's always if there's going to be anybody who can spot a hidden agenda for other people, it's going to be Loki.
But his hidden agenda have always been very simple.
Yep. Elevator says, I honestly don't think the timekeepers actually exist. I think he might just be Kang, and he's getting Ravonna to do his dirty work. So, as we mentioned in the last one in the comics, Ravonna is actually in the comics is actually Kang's partner.
Yeah.
So we had this discussion, didn't we, about belief, and Mobius says that he just kind of he believes in the timekeepers because it gives him a purpose. He doesn't actually know whether, you know, that purpose is correct or if it's grounded in any kind of fact, but he just does it because it gives him purpose. And you see people do that in life. Sometimes they'll just follow a course because it gives them a purpose in life. Very much what Mobius is doing. So that's a fair point. Do the timekeepers even exist? Could there be like another power making the TVA do what they do? I was going to get onto this later, but we might as well get onto it now. I think the TVA, the timekeepers do exist, but possibly their goal is to maintain that one sacred timeline, because for whatever reason, they get all of their power from that one timeline. So if there were other timelines, it would kind of
diminish
the power they're getting. So I think their goal is to actually just keep that one timeline, or maybe not the timekeepers, whatever this force is who's in control. Maybe Kang, because obviously Kang is going to pop up in the Ant-Man movie as well. So Kang's definitely going to be in there. And why would they have Kang's partner in Loki if they're not going to connect the two at some point?
Did you notice that it was really interesting that she actually took up one of those like timekeeper, one of those Minutemen rod? So it seems like maybe she was like a former Minuteman.
She's worked her way through the ranks.
Yeah.
I think the even more interesting thing was like when she gives Mobius the pen, and it kind of alludes to her having another life elsewhere, which, you know, that could mean multiple things. But yeah, it does allude to the fact that I think there's a lot more going on with her than what we know about. Does she have another life which she lives out on Earth on the sacred timeline? Does she have a life somewhere with Kang the Conqueror, somewhere in the timeline where there's little baby Rabonas and Kangs like running around the place?
Interesting you said that, because you know what, it made me think now. My brain's just going all over. Maybe she's been doing exactly what Variant Loki's been doing. Maybe that's what they've been doing, like hiding in between realms where, you know, well, time, where a world is just about to be destroyed, where whatever you do on there won't have any consequence as long as the actual apocalypse happens as it's supposed to. So, you know, like what the Loki's been doing, going there, doing whatever, which is what Loki demonstrated, that he went there, he did things that you weren't supposed to do, i.e. like he freed those animals and he was there telling them, yeah, you're all going to die, and acting silly because it didn't actually change anything.
So, Kay says the statue of one of the looks like Kang. Weird that the camera was focused in on it. Again, just giving us 100%, giving us more clues. And it even looks like the actor they've picked to play Kang as well a little bit. So yeah, I think all arrows are just pointing towards Kang. And wouldn't it be amazing if Kang pops up in Loki before he makes his before he pops up in Ant-Man?
It would be interesting. Because, I mean, let's face it, these MCU series now are just as big in terms of a blockbuster as movies. So, in the sense, like, the budget that they're using on them seems to be limitless.
Yeah.
In the sense you're watching them, it's got better special effects and...
Oh, 1 second, Davey, 1 second. I'm just being summoned regarding this recycling. 2 secs.
Yeah. The joy of live streaming, you get to see things like this. But yeah, I think that's going to be real interesting, even though I'm here talking to myself. But yeah, you know, for those elevators not worthy, everyone who's watching, you know, just exactly what do we think if the timekeepers do exist, or is it really the timekeepers? Maybe it could actually be a renegade, what's it called? A renegade Eternal.
Yeah, so Elevate is agreeing. Like, yes, someone compares a side photo of Jonathan Majors, who's that who plays Kang in Ant-Man, in the next Ant-Man movie, and a picture of the middle timekeeper, and it's literally the same. So it does feel as though they have taken the image of Jonathan Majors and just put it into that wall statue. Kang is all over this. The multiverse is playing a big part in all the new movies from Ant-Man, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange. Yeah, I think we're setting it up. I mean, I was going to go through the episode bit by bit, but I think we should just discuss the theory behind it. I think at the end, when Lady Loki, who I'm going to call Floki, female Loki, get it?
Floki.
Anyway, Floki, yeah.
Nice.
I'm going to call her Floki. And you see all those other kind of, she sets off all the bombs, then you see all those other timelines kind of coming out of the main timeline. Yeah, I think that there was the multiverse of madness taking birth, which Doctor Strange is going to have to deal with in his movie.
Yeah, because it was but I did say, I'm pretty sure on the last podcast, I did say something like that. Like I said that Loki was collecting those, like they're going to make a time bomb, some kind of time bomb of sorts.
Yeah.
The only thing I probably didn't I thought they were probably going to go after the timekeepers, but no, it looks like it's actually Loki that's actually responsible for the creation of the multiverse.
Yeah, it seems that way. It seems that way. Now we need to have a conversation about variant Loki or Floki. So she seems to have some kind of higher end game going on. Like in future trailers of the series, she does turn up in the TVA offices. So I don't know if that last scene of her walking through the portal is her actually going to the TVA to wreak havoc and to try and find the timekeepers. Yeah, this is exactly what I was going to get onto. See, I understand that she could be Sylvie. But if you look at her horns, one of the horns is chipped, just like Lady Loki in the comics. So Sylvie Lushton is a character in kind of the Avengers late noughties. She's basically a human being who's given the powers of Loki and calls herself the Enchantress, who's obviously an Asgardian as well, but kind of takes on her name and stuff. But basically, people were believing that this character is actually Sylvie Lushton, because if you watch the program on, say, like the French or Spanish subtitles, the actress's name comes up as playing Sylvie, not playing Loki.
Oh,
So, and again, if this is Sylvie is linked into the entire like Young Avengers story as well. So again, if it is Sylvie Lushton, again we've got another Young Avenger potentially entering the frame.
Oh, nice. So
or somebody linked to the Young Avengers.
Bradley's grandson, and now her.
Yeah, so we've got Isaiah Bradley's grandson. We've got Scarlet Witch's kids. Her. We know Kate Bishop's going to be joining the fray soon in her own series on Disney Plus. So potentially, Kate Bishop, Hawkeye.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So potentially, we've already seen. Where's my hand? 5 Young Avengers potentially already in these series. Oh, and sorry, Falcon 2 as well, from Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Oh, you mean the army,
Yeah, I've forgotten his name. I've totally forgotten his name. My apologies. What he's called in the comics, but what his real name is. But yeah, so potentially 6 Young Avengers.
Nice.
Potentially popping up. So yeah, there's a lot setting up. So there's a lot of questions to be asked about this variant Loki. We've got asked the question now: is that even Loki, or is it actually a variant, or is it actually a new character altogether?
Well, he's got Loki-like powers because Loki was like, the enchantment of where you kind of like get someone to, you talk through someone. That's one of Loki's ability, but he doesn't use it
No.
anymore because he feels like it's, yeah, that's child's play type of thing. He kind of looks down on it. If you
Yeah, and
notice when he was speaking about it.
yeah, and in the comics, Sylvie actually has Loki's powers anyway. So, like we don't know from what part of the timeline Sylvie comes from. Whether, again, assuming this is Sylvie, we don't know all this Floki whether they come from, um, 2020 or 2023, whether they come from 2,000 years in the past, 2,000 years in the future. We don't actually know where this variant comes from.
Well, we know someone who might know.
Kevin Feige, I reckon he knows.
Well, besides that Minuteman officer, the one who was kidnapped by variant Loki, because that one seemed to have was in such shock, literally like in a state of complete
she's seen
shock.
things. She's seen
She's
things.
Yeah, she's seen something, and I think it's something so mind-blowing and eye-opening that she wasn't even worried about what was going to happen right there, with the explosion. It's like whatever she saw, it was that terrifying. So maybe Loki, variant Loki, VL, I'm gonna call him VL for short. Maybe VL kidnapped and took them, explained to them what's really going on, shown them what was really going on, because probably explaining won't be enough. Because you think, oh yeah, you're just trying to say whatever, But the fact that Minuteman is in such a state means that VL showed them something that was so out of what they're used to seeing or what they've been told that they just don't know how to actually grasp that reality of what they saw, which is why they're just mumbling and doing whatever, because it was that shocking. So it would be interesting to know what really happened, if they do like a debriefing, who knows, maybe the Minutemen have a way of, going in your brain and seeing what you saw to actually, know if you're telling the truth. Because, I mean, they've got everything else. So they should be able to have something that could do that, which could actually give us an idea of what actually transpired in that time.
Maybe. I think it's interesting as well. This variant Loki, I'm still going to call him Floki. I'm liking Floki. Floki's also a character in Vikings who builds ships. Very cool character in Vikings. I recommend watching Vikings if you haven't seen it already, Davey.
No, I haven't watched it yet. I'm gonna, definitely want to see the series.
Yeah. I developed quite a crush on Lagertha during the series. I'm sure you will do as well. But anyway, we digress. Floki seems to be more powerful than Loki, because not only did Floki beat Loki in a fight, even though they'd taken over somebody else's body, their actual real corporeal form Loki was still doing other things like behind the scenes, like flipping switches and stuff like that. So they're almost able to operate two bodies at the same time and still kick the crap out of Loki. Which,
but did he really get the crap kicked out of him, or was he still just trying to play his own hand? So he was doing that, because let's face it, he didn't really put up much of a resistance. I mean, if Loki wanted to have killed, he could have killed all those, humans being controlled by VL, but he didn't. He was corresponding, because I think he does not have all the cards. And if one thing we know about Loki likes to know what he's getting into, so he can be, like you said, he likes to be the smartest person in the room.
So you're saying like he allowed himself to lose to kind of put that person in a position of confidence where they'll kind of maybe speak more and
they feel like
their master plan.
Just like he did with with the TVA. He made
interesting.
Them feel like, control until he was ready. Then he started doing whatever, because you look at it, he was in control of everything with the TVA from when they went back to that that cosplay kind of festival. in H5, and he's like, yeah, don't move, don't do this. He had them, as much as they didn't want to listen, they were still listening because they know that what he's capable of, even though he's still not showing everything that he's capable of. So he was that much in control. And if these people are so powerful as they make out to be, then for one, you wouldn't need Loki, and two, you wouldn't be listening to him. So it's quite obvious that I think a lot of them don't want Loki to know what he's really capable of. I think just like how they're being controlled, they want to control Loki to make him think he's as powerful as they say he is, but not really what he's really about. Whereas the variant, VL, is operating at full peak power, which is quite interesting. If VL is operating at full peak power and still can't really defeat Loki, who's not operating at full power, because Loki doesn't know what's going on. He's not played his hand, has he? He's still just trying to learn or figure out who all the players are and what cards everyone has, which is why he went through, in the end, he went through that portal as well. Because I think he needs more information to know what's what. I mean, that's not going to be the last we see of him, I believe, in the TVA, but I think he needs to get a wider perspective view of what's actually going on, because I think he knows, judging by the incident in the library when he was trying to ask for certain files and they wouldn't give him. Oh, my bad.
That was a scene from the library.
Yeah. So true. Yes, but I
was just telling you to shush. I was just recreating that scene.
I thought it was like giving away a spoiler or something. But if you notice, they would not give him certain files that he was asking for, like for the creation of the TVA or when does time end.
Which links on to our previous point about how there might be an alternative kind of agenda for the timekeepers or whoever's in control of the TVA, whether that be the timekeepers or Kang.
Yeah, kind of. But also, if you also look at it this way, based on how these are the TVA operates, they're like ants where they just follow, like soldier ants. They just follow. They don't stray from the path. So if like he said, like Mobius said, if they tell them go and do this, they just go and do it without question. They don't question things to say, well, why do we need to do that? Or why did he do that or whatever? They just feel like whatever they say is law should go. So for instance, Loki being a variant because he altered time by when he escaped, that is considered a crime. But the Avengers going back and changing multiple history and time wasn't considered a breach.
But they never changed multiple history and time because they put the stones back at the exact moment which they took them. So they pruned all those different branches themselves. The only one which is questionable is Captain America going back and having life with Penny, and whether that created a new timeline.
Right, and there was still no consequence for that. He was allowed. So it's like they pick and choose when it's okay for someone to actually bend or break the rules. If it's part of their plan.
That's an interesting point. But then Loki also proved as well that there's certain things you can change and actually they have no consequence. Like when he goes to Pompeii and he changes the timeline there, but because there's a disaster about to happen, it actually bears no consequence on the sacred timeline and no variant timeline comes out of it. So
because as long as the event that was supposed to happen, i.e. the destruction of that planet, is supposed to happen at that time, then it's fine. As long as he doesn't remove something or someone from there who should still be there when it happens, then anything you do on there, if you go on there and you kill 50 people on there, technically they were going to die anyway. So it does not matter because they were going to die anyway. But if you took them and let them escape, then that's a different thing, because now you've created a new branch in time because they've exited.
What about Black Widow? What about her? Her movie's going to be kind of a prequel thing, so I don't think that's going to be stepping too much onto the entire.
Well, I can't see what K, unless K is.
Gone. Oh, I see. Could we see her return? Oh, do you mean in this series and as a consequence of kind of all this timeline shenanigans taking place?
Well, no, I was
Potentially.
thinking,
It'll feel a bit cheap for
more
me,
along
but potentially. Go on.
yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of, well, she died outside her natural time when she would have died had those events not happened. So why was that not changed to put her back where she should have been?
Yeah, but I had to get that stone regardless. So she would have always died.
Yeah, if they went that way. But now what we're seeing what we've seen now, the fact that the Infinity Stones are basically used to like page markers and things like that,
Paperweights.
and paperweight. Yeah, they could have technically given them the stones if they were that concerned about everything happening in the universe, because they knew exactly what was going on. Nothing that happens they're not aware of.
A life was needed to give the stone back. So you suggesting they just like give one of the paperweight stones and we get Black Widow back? But it could happen.
Or they could have just given them it to begin with. Then none of that would have happened. Black Widow wouldn't have had to die.
Yeah. I will say this. I think if they did bring her back, I don't know, that would feel a bit cheap for me. I think, I do like to see characters stay dead when they're dead, personally.
Yeah. Some characters in some shows. Some characters you want to see them back.
Yeah, sometimes, but yeah, I think if Black Widow came back, I think when I rewatch Endgame, I think it will take away from the impact that scene had, because I remember watching it in the cinema and I did not have a clue which one was gonna first time. I did not have a clue which one was gonna end up dead. Captain America never gave back the stones. Maybe he never. Maybe he was just sat there with his own Infinity Gauntlet with Penny, and they were just messing around with the universe and just creating this perfect life for themselves.
Yeah, maybe he's the big bad in charge of the TVA. He's just sitting there, just watching everyone running amok.
Maybe that's where Old Man Cap is. And again, people have said that in the first episode of Loki. You can see Peggy Carter in the background being arrested. I mean, I'm 50-50 about whether that's Peggy Carter in the background, but maybe that is an Easter egg they've put in there, and maybe the TVA are dealing with Peggy Carter and they wouldn't be Peggy Carter's fault, but maybe they are dealing with Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers as an aside to dealing with Loki.
Guilty by association, and then Captain America just goes buck wild and just says, you know what? I'm gonna destroy everyone. Y'all gonna play me. I've been waiting so many decades to get back to this woman, and now you want to lock her up.
And again, like, we don't know if the TVA are the good guys in this.
Like I said it in our first podcast where I said I'm not gonna make any rash judgment on Loki. Did I not say that?
Maybe.
Yes, I did. I'm always right, man.
You might have said it. I don't know. I haven't rewatched it back.
Yeah, I said we don't know what these time variants and what the reasons behind this variant Loki actions is. Maybe this variant Loki knows something that we don't know as yet.
Yeah, I think that's the case.
Look at the interesting point. The fact that Mobius, who's been working for God knows how long, because like they said, time runs differently inside the TVA. So for all we know, he could have been working there for over 100, 1,000 years, and we never know.
More than that, possibly.
Right. And yet he's never met the timekeepers. Remember, he said that he's never met them.
And he's never been on a jet ski.
Exactly. I don't know which one's worse.
I've never been on a jet ski either.
Well, you don't live outside time, which technically means you could just go back to any time in history where there's going to be a disaster, where something's going to happen. You could have gone to Earth, steal a jet ski, jump on one of those planets, like, even jump into space and time, like back in the day with Pompeii. Go to a nice beach, clean air, use that jet ski, go back before everything happened. Boom.
But I think what we both stumbled upon here is something quite valid. By accident, we stumbled upon it, but Mobius kind of holds these two visions and ideals in his hand. He holds one in his hand, which is the Timekeepers, which he believes is 100% real, but he has actually, in reality, he has no evidence of the Timekeepers being real, but yet he just follows it blindly. Mm-hmm. And then he has this desire to ride a jet ski, which he's never done. But he knows jet skis are real. And I'm sure there's a way he could do it. But because of this because of this notion of the Timekeepers, he's stopping himself from doing it.
True. That's a very interesting take. Yeah, it's like he doesn't want to do one until he gets to experience both. So, i.e., if he meets the Timekeepers, then he'll be like, yeah, well, that's one thing off my bucket list. So now I'm going to go and ride a jet ski.
Yeah. And, and if he met the Timekeepers, like never meet your heroes kind of thing, would they actually, lessen his belief in them when he sees them for what they really are, when he finds out one of them is Kang the Conqueror? Interestingly, the Timekeepers are referred to as reptiles.
Yeah, that's what Loki referred to them as, yeah.
Yeah, which I found quite interesting because, Kang isn't a reptile in the comics as far as I can remember. He's very much a humanoid or a human being. So I found that quite interesting as well. They're referred to as reptiles. But no, there's a lot potentially going on in the background in all of this. I
think again you've stumbled onto something in terms of Mobius. And if you notice, it's Mobius' decision. Like, he was the one on the forefront for having Loki assigned to them to work with the TVA to help bring down the Loki variant. What if he's got his own hidden agenda? He wants to expose the Timekeepers himself, but he knows he's not able to, because who knows what hidden triggers they've put inside them, where if they were to try to be disobedient, they could just erase them or reverse them, where they forget certain things. You know what I mean?
Yep, 100%.
If you have someone like Loki who has free will, which is what Loki mentioned, which I think he didn't just mention that just for the sake of it. I think that's probably something that we're going to know more about. Just like how we, speculated that, the animated clock wasn't an automated thing, but actually a living, functioning entity that actually was communicating with him directly, as opposed to giving generic automated answers. I think maybe Mobius actually brought Loki on to actually, one, prove whether or not the Timekeepers exist, and two, know exactly what the Timekeepers' true agenda is, because they don't know anything. They just know if the Timekeeper says that is bad, then you have to go out and do it because they say that is bad. That's it. You don't know nothing else. They've never come out. It's not like if you look at it as a business, it's a corporation, and most businesses, at least once a year, your management will come out.
Yeah. And see, you guys, I think my brother brings up a good point, which we forgot about from the first episode. Why are robots not allowed in the TVA? That's a really good point. Because, again, we're talking about belief systems, aren't we? Belief systems are something which are very novel to sentient beings like ourselves, humans. And I guess in the Marvel Universe, the Kree and Skrull have their own belief systems. But I guess if a robot was to go in there, they would see everything for exactly what it is. They wouldn't be bothered about your belief system. They'll just be straight down the middle, purely scientific, and just say, well, this is this. Everything else is rubbish. I don't know what you're talking about.
And it's calculations, isn't it? If you look at it, most
Yeah.
robots or most AI, things always come about is math. It's always calculation. They'll calculate, well, the probability of that happening or that not correcting itself is this percent or that percent. Whereas the TVA agents, they just don't look at things that way. You could have a 90, you could have a 50% success rate if things was to play out. But because the timekeeper said to them, you know what, we're not going to take that chance. That is wrong. Go out and do it. They're just going to blindly follow. Whereas a robot would actually, AI would actually look at the figures, analyze all the data, and then go accordingly, because it's going to work on, it doesn't work on maybes or what we would work on. It would actually work on its own information that it gathers and says that's
okay. If you know, that's a really good point, which I'm going to now extend. So we're all very enamored by the TVA building, the TVA world, and it looks beautiful with its kind of retro 50s stroke 60s 70s kind of architecture. But most importantly, they use paper as their records. Now we all think, oh, that's really cool, that's really retro, it's kind of hipster. But maybe that's for a reason, because again, they don't want robots and they don't want computers or anything that can do calculations that will start working stuff out and start saying, actually, this doesn't make any, like an Excel spreadsheet which does the mathematics of what's going on and says, actually, none of this makes any sense. And I don't want anybody in there to realize, hey, the computer's saying no, the computer's saying that none of this is making sense. Why are we doing this?
It's kind of like a bloody, when you're typing on your phone, it's like an autocorrect where if you type a word and if the computer, that's not correct, it will automatically change it to what it thinks it should be. Whereas when they have blind, obedient employees, servants, robots, slaves, human slaves.
Not robots.
Yeah. As in TVA droids, they can actually say to them, do this, and they will
drones.
do it without.
Drones is the best term, probably.
Yes, drones. Because literally they do act like that. They don't question anything. They literally just blindly follow.
They all believe. And yeah, maybe that's why we're so enamored by this beautiful TVA world with its retro kind of decor. Actually, that's all there for a reason, because they don't want any kind of artificial intelligence going in there.
It makes sense because you're not working with all the data. Because if you look at it, which was, now that you're saying this, I'm actually looking at more things now. Like, for instance, when Loki said to that TVA employee, I'll gut you like a fish, he didn't know what a fish is.
No.
You know what Infinity Stones are, which is the most powerful gems in the universe, or in all the universes. You work in the TVA where it's not like you're aging like a human or whatever. You've got all that knowledge and all that information to hand, but yet you don't know what a fish is. You don't know what a fish is.
Eats foods because, I mean, this has salads. So they've never served fish in that canteen?
Yeah, just salad. Yeah, they serve salad but no fish.
And where did the agents go? Like, did they have little TVA homes they go back to, little TVA families they go back to, or do their entire worlds just revolve around their work?
Maybe they just sleep in the office. They just power down and just power back up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think we've definitely stumbled upon something here, which I think we're onto something regarding the decor of the TVA, and that's a good point, Kay, regarding the robots. Why aren't there any robots there? And that's obviously, yeah, because imagine something like Ultron just walks into the TVA and he'll just within minutes work out everything that's wrong in the place and how nothing really makes sense.
I'm thinking even more things now. You know about with the TVA the Minuteman who VL took and traumatized by whatever happened that's left that one traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
What if it's a situation like, I'm going to digress for a second. There was this movie which was really good in the
Okay, don't digress too far.
late 90s called Dark City, and it was
Sounds awful.
it was amazing. It was literally where you're in this town. So, like for instance, you're where you are right now, but every night when you go to sleep and when you wake up, you're a different. So today you was a lawyer. When you wake up again, next thing you're a doctor, but you don't know the difference. And it's only one person who was able to know the difference because he didn't fell asleep and he saw all the clocks working and everything changing. So you wouldn't see anything. And literally for everyone else, it seems as normal until you start asking things like, have you ever seen daytime? And like, yeah, but they can't tell you when the last time they saw daytime. So what if VL took that Minuteman and actually showed them what's the reality of where the TVA office is? What if it's not what we've seen?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's what we're going to get onto.
And it's because that could be the only thing that would have shocked, because it can't be something about, different time branches being created that would have had that Minuteman so shook and so traumatized. It must be something that's just so shocking to everything that they've always been taught or what they've been programmed to think and believe, being completely shattered, that reality being completely shattered. So, and it wouldn't have been by words, it would have been possibly just showing them that, look, that doesn't exist. That's not real. That's the reality of what you're in. You're in a little box being controlled by these puppeteers. None of that is real. There's nothing like that out there. There's no time stream, as they're saying. This is just all a lie. They're just having you doing this to feed them. Because maybe that's exactly what it is. Like you said, that time stream might just be something that they're feeding off. That's keeping them alive.
I think there is an ulterior motive as to why they want to keep that one timeline there, because they mentioned in the first episode there was a timeline war, and so like
they maybe had to make it right and condense it into one. Why?
And what do they say, Davian? It's the victors of the war who write the story, who write the history.
Write the stories. Yeah.
So we don't. So we don't.
Variant Loki is now the bad guy.
So we don't. So we don't know the other side of the story as to why that war took place in the first place. The other side could have been the good guys in this war.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that VL is more like the Che.
Yeah, well,
the liberator, the revolutionary.
No, I think I agree with you. I think we're going to find out that actually Kang is one of the timekeepers. Maybe even Kang has actually killed the other two timekeepers, hence the reason you don't see him, or imprisoned them or something. And you've just got Kang kind of just taking all this power from this one timeline, potentially.
Yeah, which is woman in charge.
Which is making Kang interesting, because I don't find Kang very interesting in the comics. I have to say, I do find his stories quite boring. Apologies if there's any Kang fans out there. My apologies. So to close up, a couple of bits I just want to mention. Richard E. Grant is due to appear in this show at some point.
No.
So Richard E. Grant.
What, in what episode, or it doesn't say it already?
Doesn't say what episode, but at some point in this series, Richard E. Grant is going to appear. I mean, if you look at him, an older Loki, potentially? An older variant Loki?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we are going to see a lot more. I mean, what if maybe that's VL's mission, to get as many Lokis, because Lokis are the ones that can actually stop whatever is going on.
Oh God, I've just had maybe what if this variant Loki is actually Sylvie Lushton, sorry, and she's taken the powers from Richard E. Grant Loki. So people think that's a variant Loki. Actually, it's Sylvie Lushton. And she's just taken the powers from Richard E. Grant.
Or maybe borrowed. Maybe he's lent her the powers.
Maybe.
Maybe for some reason he's not able to do what, maybe he's trapped and he's not able to escape, but he's got enough power where he can transfer it for her to go and do his bidding, bring back this Loki, because that this Loki is the ace.
Yeah. So what if this in every
attack, because it's not, you can't control this Loki. No matter what you do to him, what you say, even when he looks like he's complying, he's not really complying. All he's doing is gathering all the information around from all the parties involved, so he knows what he's working with, and then he will do what he wants, which is Loki things.
So what if this other Richard E. Grant is actually from the other timeline, which Richard TVA and the Timekeepers had a war with? Or just the Timekeepers had a war with.
You're right, and knew exactly what's happened and what the real agenda is behind these Timekeepers.
So kind of, for whatever reason, the Richard E. Grant Loki can't actually get involved himself in this timeline, so they've kind of bestowed their powers onto this Sylvie Lushton character to do their bidding, potentially.
Let's focus on that. I think so, in the sense that he can't expose himself, because should he expose himself, whatever happened in the last war, which is those Timekeepers probably erase everyone and everything in that war to make everything how they want it, because we don't know what was created.
No, and that war. Maybe this Richard E. Grant is hiding in an apocalypse somewhere. Quite sadly, when they said apocalypse, I was like, X-Men. Then they meant actual apocalypses, and I was sad for about 5 seconds. Then I thought it'd be weird if they were hiding inside apocalypse. That would be a bit strange.
You know what? It makes sense now. Maybe that's what they're using Loki to do, to track down that Richard E. Grant Loki, to stop him, because the only person who could figure out is someone who don't think like them, but someone who would think more like.
Oh no. I think the TVA generally think that this woman is variant Loki, but they probably haven't got a clue about.
Because they were created after. Because they were created after the Time War.
Because if they knew,
when they give information, it was saying this happened, and then the Timekeepers restored the balance, and then they created the TVA. The TVA wasn't created before that; it was created after, which means whatever happened before, like you just said, the victor actually writes the story. So they can script the story anyhow to say, yes, it was tragedy and carnage everywhere, and we came and we stabilized everything, and you guys are the force to actually keep everything stable. But no one knows what really happened before. So maybe there is someone out there who knows exactly what happened. Maybe that's what happened with that Minuteman, was taken to see that one who would tell them, this is what's really happened. This is what the Timekeepers are really about. Let me show you. And now it's just blown their mind.
Yeah, because potentially if they knew about this other Loki, then, and again, we're theorizing and we're probably going to be shot down and proven to be wrong by episode 6. So potentially, if they knew about this other Loki, then that would make them question what they believe to be true about the Timekeepers. So we don't know if Richard E. Grant is playing Loki, but apparently he has been cast to appear in the show, and it has to be a Loki he's playing. Surely you don't get an actor in of that level to not play Loki, a variant Loki in the series. Surely he has to play Loki. He even looks a bit like an older Tom Hiddleston.
Or maybe he's Odin. Who knows?
Who knows? Or maybe he's going to play a male version of Sif. Who knows?
It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
A possible council of Lokis, that would be quite funny. I would enjoy seeing that, all these different types of Lokis arguing with each other.
Who's the smartest? I'm the smartest.
So let's start wrapping it up. Not Arsenal. Austria versus the Netherlands is going to start in 2 minutes. So let's start wrapping things up. I'm going to ask you, what do you expect is going to happen episode 3? And where do you think they've gone in the portal?
Well, I think...
Okay, sorry. The IMDb page for Grant lists classic Loki. Oh, that sounds good. Looks like he's going to be playing a Loki.
Interesting. I think maybe next episode will probably... I think maybe the next 2 episodes will probably reveal more about what really happened before the TVA was created. Maybe we'll find out what really happened, what the timekeepers are really about. And that would probably be episode. Well, if it's 6 episodes, maybe 3 and 4 will be on that. More about... Maybe episode 4 will be more about the history. Maybe episode 4 might be... episode 3 will be more about hearing more about Variant Loki. Episode 4 maybe about meeting whoever, maybe classic Loki.
Yeah, and they could always, Kay says, they could always escape to Asgard before its destruction as an apocalypse moment.
Well, I think now that the TVA is aware that that's what Variant Loki was doing, they probably have enough agents where they can actually send them throughout all those possible apocalyptic errors to actually hide in plain sight in case they show up. So I think there might be something else that we don't know, like another hidden backdoor where you can hide, which is maybe where classic Loki, who may know what's really going on, has been hiding.
Yeah.
From the timekeepers all that time. So I think 3 will be more about a conversation between VL and Loki. Maybe 4 will be more about meeting who actually, because someone would have had to. I don't think VL figured out all these things by herself. I think someone, like a sensei, told her what's going on. So that could be classic Loki. So I think maybe episode 4 will then be meeting that person to know what's really going on. And then 5 and 6 now will be a lead up to the climax of 6, which is the war of exposing what the timekeepers are really about.
What would be interesting as well regarding classic Loki, if that does come to fruition, is that we kind of touched upon that this series is kind of about Loki's identity and him having a bit of an identity crisis. Like, it was funny as well, like at the start of this episode, they played Bonnie Tyler, I Need a Hero, which I know is one of your favorite songs ever, if not your favorite song ever.
Who don't love that song there? It just reminds me of Footloose, Kevin Bacon.
I mean, I know often you've phoned me up when you've been in dire straits, and you've sung that song down the phone to me when you needed my help, which I've always found a bit weird, but appreciate at the same time.
Just like it is now, I think a classic song for this or what's happening right now is Europe Final Countdown. I think
that could be a good one as well.
Yeah, for episode 4, 5, and 6, like especially 5 and 6.
But I wonder if they're playing that song to kind of allude to the TVA needs a hero, and is actually Loki going to step up and become that hero they need? But at the same time, he's having an identity crisis. And maybe when he meets classic Loki, he will kind of like see final form Loki, and he'll see the man or the god he was always meant to be.
Yeah,
and that will kind of give him some closure.
Yeah, but I think in order for him to fully grow, I think he's gonna, which you touched on, he's gonna have to go to Asgard. I think he's gonna have to go there just before his mom dies. Not forget even the destruction, because his mom was already dead by that time. I think he's going to have to go there and get some kind of closure with his mom. I think that, plus he's got closure from his dad in terms of when him and Thor saw Odin before he died, and Odin basically called, "I love you, my sons." He didn't say my son, my sons, which was plural for both of them.
I love you, and I kind of like you. You're okay.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he needs to get that closure with his mom where he didn't get to say goodbye. I mean, he knew his mom loved him, but it's the fact that he was always such a renegade because he knew no matter what he did, his mom still loved him. So he wasn't necessarily trying to get attention from his mom or approval because he knew his mom always approved. He was more trying to get it from his dad. And the fact that he got closure from Odin, I think he wants to kind of apologize to his mom for all the things that he's done. So I think that will probably help him grow to actually reach his path or go on his path to becoming final form Loki, classic Loki, which will be the hero that the TVA needs and his partner, cartoony Clock.
But, well, we've already kind of noticed as well, like in the first episode where Loki watches what happens to himself in the future. And he's kind of pleased with the fact, I think he's kind of secretly pleased that he does die a hero and he does get, his brothers, because it even says on the sheet that Loki's final moment is not Thanos killing him, it's actually Thor hugging him as he's dying.
Yeah.
So I think in that moment, Loki's died, but he's died knowing that actually I've done right by my family. And, he has his brother's love. And I think, just imagine, I'm going to ask you this question, you don't have to answer. But imagine yourself at 20 years old, and now you're 40.
I remember me at 20.
Okay, so if you showed a picture of yourself, if you showed a profile of yourself now aged 40 to you aged 20, do you think they would be pleased? Do you think they would be like, do you know something? I've actually done all right, and I'm actually a far better human being than I thought I'd be.
I think it depends. Manny, I think it also depends on your situation, i.e., like Loki has always been a renegade his whole life. Like,
yeah, but it's like a rhetorical question. Like,
yeah, I think if I was in a Loki position in that mind frame where I was always trying to get that attention, I think if I look at myself, I'll probably be able to tell because you know yourself better than anyone. So I think you'd be able to look at yourself in a picture, even if you're not smiling. And you'd be able to say, you know what, that's actually me when I'm content, because we always have a vision of ourselves of what we'd be like, when I'm older, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. So I think we'd have an idea where we'd say, I think I've actually reached my goals, or I haven't, or whatever. So, yeah.
I mean, I always imagined I'd have a pretty cool scar down here by now and, have stories.
Time,
yeah.
The big gun, metal arm.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought I'd have a big bionic arm by now, and
last name Summon, first name Cable.
I'd have all kinds of like Vietnam-esque stories I could tell people, but my life never quite went down that route, unfortunately.
But I have to say, I think Loki, Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision, awesome. That gave her the closure for her situation. Falcon and Winter Soldier, amazing, because that also transitioned Falcon from being Falcon, the psychic, to now Captain America, the new and the rightful heir to the Captain America legacy. And I think now Loki is possibly going to be the most important character, an influential character for the entire MCU, more than anyone else, because this looks bigger than everything else.
Yeah, I think
Captain America was more about, propaganda and, corrupt government and the whole racial issues surrounding who should really be the new Captain America as opposed to who they want to be Captain America, who fits their demographic. But I think what the Loki story is going to tell is what the bigger picture is beyond all of what we're seeing so far.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think Loki is the breakout star. I think when that first Thor movie happened, I think the producers at Marvel were probably blown away by Tom Hiddleston's performance and the way the fans just gravitated towards him, and they thought, and as the movies went on, they thought, man, we've got to like give this guy a bigger and bigger role because the fans love him, and Tom Hiddleston's done amazing.
I was just about to say that there. I think Marvel has to give themselves a round of applause because they also had to sign off on who was chosen, who was selected for to play these characters.
Yeah, because Tom Hiddleston, as far as I recall, didn't have a big rep when they cast him as Loki.
No, I didn't even really know of him. Like
neither did I.
It's one of those people that you probably may have seen him in something, but he never stood out. So you don't take, you didn't really take much notice of him in terms of like what he's capable of. Whereas there's certain actors, their work. Like for instance, like Michael B. Jordan. I've seen him from he was a kid.
In The Wire.
Yeah, in The Wire, he also did that movie as well with Keanu Reeves, that baseball movie where he went and he was like coaching these bunch of hood kids, and he actually dies in it. He was actually a little kid. He's about 10, so he's actually younger than when he was actually in The Wire. And then I watched him. Yeah, then I watched him in that superhero, that movie where they got powers.
Oh yeah.
Which was pretty cool. So I knew of him, but Tom Hiddleston, I didn't know of him until I saw him as Loki. And the minute he came on screen as Loki, he just it was just him. He just stole the show, and he did so well, which is so great for him. And I think that when he came on board, which was good for him, he had to come out there and make a great impression because he's coming in a franchise that's already kind of been established in terms of the other movies, like most of these characters.
At that point, he was helping. It was still early on, so he was helping to establish the franchise.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, he was like the newbie in the sense that most of them already had been in something, i.e. their own movies or...
Oh, yeah. That, but in terms of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he was one of the ones who helped establish it and put it on the map.
In terms of, he was like the new boy in the scene, so he had to, be on his A game to make sure he left a lasting impression, and he did that excellently and so great that, had he not done a good job, would we still be having these Loki series now? Would they have just gone different ways? Because they've got so many characters that stood out so well throughout the MCU now that they can make so many different series. But the fact that he did so well, it was only right that they did that. And I think it would be so fitting that he's done such a great job that he may actually be the creator of the multiverse.
Yeah,
to actually bring all the characters in, everyone.
Yeah, he just got a little too mischievous as his God of Mischief role pertains, and he just ended up creating time multiverse, which is typical of him.
I think it's like what you said. Once you meet classic Loki, I think classic Loki is everything that this Loki wants to be, except the only difference is classic Loki may be more humble. He's got all that. He's done everything what Loki wants to brag about. I'm the smartest in the room. I'm this, I'm that. Whereas classic Loki may be all of that and more, but at the same time, he's humble because he knows that. Whereas this Loki is still kind of like a child in terms of he has to let you know, yeah, I'm the smartest in the room. Yeah, I'm smarter than you.
He's always trying to prove himself. He's always trying to prove himself. So what I think is going to happen in the next episode is, I think Loki and Loki have actually teleported back into the TVA. I think they've kind of like purposely emptied out the TVA of Minutemen to that place in 2050. Where was it? Where did they go to in 2050? I don't know. I think it was Alabama.
It was Alabama where that storm was coming.
Yeah. So they've gone to 20. So they kind of like emptied out the TVA of Minutemen to send them all to Alabama. They've gone back to the TVA, and I think you're right. I think we're going to start to see some of the decloaking of in regards to what the TVA is really all about. And yeah, we're going to start to see some of that mystery and that shroud being pulled down. That's my prediction for the next episode. Davey, I'm going to call it a day from here. Any last comments?
No, that's it. I think it's great. Thank you guys for tuning in, and girls, everyone, as usual, we appreciate the love and support. and just keep a lookout. Also, just remember, we're not just only going to be doing podcast on, MCU and things like that. We're also venturing out into
Well, I am.
sports. Yeah, sports. Well, we're still going to be doing some WWE stuff, wrestling stuff, you and I. But we're doing UFC. We're going to be doing other things as well. So just enjoy the ride, stick along, and also we're going to be having some merch for some of our wonderful, wonderful Vaya gangs. So love y'all. Thank you. And I'm going to still enjoy the sun because it is still only